Now, any of you who spend a bit of time in libraries, like I do myself sometimes, you'll realise something. The internet, you can find some great things on the internet, no doubt about it. But there's some things, if you want to really dig in deep, if you want to really find out some good stuff, you won't find that on the internet. But you will find it in a library. You know, things that come in like in real extreme detail of technical things about materials, about, you know, different bits and pieces. Sometimes they, you know, don't put this stuff up. They're just, you know, you got to buy the book because it takes them quite a lot to sort of expend all this experimentation and information, and it's all very technical. They ain't just willing to give it away for nothing on the internet. And then you can go to a university library and bada bang, there it is. And you'll find out a lot more from books at times than you will from the internet. And this may be one of those times. And I want to talk about one that they used around here a lot, and that's stone fences. And I will do a video showing a massive long stone fence. Not really tall, but it's very long stone fence around here. And there's a lot of remnants of them around. I've even got remnants of one around my place. But yeah, building stone wall fences. Now, they've done a lot of this in Scotland and England and all that, and then when they come over here, they just sort of continued on because there were so many rocks here, you know, and it was a material of choice because they didn't have to pay for it, and it was just right there anyway. But they say a lot of the old guys who did do it, they would never, around this area anyway, they would never teach anyone. They would never talk to you, tell you, anything like that. The only way you could learn was by watching the way they were doing it, because it was such a good trade and they made so much money off it that they were never willing to train anyone, and you only learnt by observation of watching them. And as a result, it became a bit of a lost art. But there will be books on it out there, and I've seen books detailing or showing photos of all the different stone fence types around Australia. And, you know, if you're in England or Scotland or something like that, you may have a lot better source of knowledge because they mightn't have kept so tight-lipped about it as the people who built them here. But it's sort of become a lost art as a result. But, you know, England, Scotland, all that, they kept the sheep in with them, and they still do to this day. And it's a great way to keep not so much cows, but sheep penned in. You know, and rabbits, yes, they have a tendency to dig under, but, you know, there may be goats and other things that, or, you know, chooks that it might suit. You've got to watch the old fox digging underneath to get your chooks, though. But, you know, this sort of, if you've got limited production means and you've only got a certain amount of mesh wire, and you want to make the most of other materials before you use up your very limited supply of chicken wire, it may be an idea, you know, to use stone fences and stuff like that as they did around here. Another one which you may or may not have seen yet, I've got around here, they do cobblestones, and there's ones around my house like this. And what they sort of do, they get different rocks of different sizes, and they sort of just, like a jigsaw puzzle, they put them all together on the ground, and they sort of whack them in with like a rubber mallet. I mean, you can even whack them in with a big bit of stick, and, you know, maybe pack a bit of dirt in between them, but usually they just sort of hammer them all together. And what it allows you to do, you can, if you've ever dealt with cattle, you'll know that if you have like cattle yards, that as they walk around, they dig all the flaming dirt out of the, you know, they just sort of, all the weight of these animals, they sort of dig the dirt out of the ground. They leave big hollows and all that in areas where they walk a lot. And if you watch a cow track, you'll notice it's dug out a little bit, a cow track in the paddock that leads from somewhere else in the paddock down to the water supply or whatever. And they do the same thing with cattle yards. And so what they do is they concrete the cattle yards. Well, you can get away with not concreting the cattle yards or pig pens, which is another one I've seen it done with. by doing this method of getting rocks like jigsaw puzzles, place them all in and whack them all in and essentially make cobblestones out of it. And that's just done with rocks around the paddock, and it's been done at my house for a pen for, well, it probably was actually a pig pen because I did have pigs here. And yeah, and those stones are still there, and it sort of affects the growth of the grass in one area because of the trouble of the grass to actually get roots in. But that's what I thought I'd throw up because that was used a lot around here in the early days. But it's sort of become a dying art because of cheap agricultural wire. And basically because a lot of the builders of these stone fences just basically wouldn't show their methods, which is a bit